Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first Knowledge is Power Hour on Mastering Microsoft Word. Today's topic is going to focus on creating a table of contents, specifically thinking about using the dissertation and thesis template or creating your dissertation and thesis manuscript and wanting to do the format from scratch. Either way works. I think the latter, being able to create the document yourself and being able to manipulate Microsoft Word and do all the formatting is a critical skill. I do recommend that all students learn how to use these tools, even though we do have the template available to you. You won't always have templates, and so it's really important to be able to learn how to use these tools to make your editing more effective. So we're going to talk first on what goes into creating an effective table of contents. So we're going to go through each component. You need to make sure your pagination, first and foremost, is correct. You also want to make sure that you're using your page breaks and that those are placed correctly. You want to make sure your margins are set correctly throughout the document. Then we're going to talk about heading styles, how to create a heading style, and then finally how to generate that table of contents. So first I'm going to bring up a document for us to look through. Okay, so we are seeing here a document. This is actually a 6th edition formatted document. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk through how do we need to format this such that we can make sure it's adhering not just the 7th edition, but again, making sure that it has all of the formatting in place to create that table of contents. I recommend to all students that the first thing you should do when you've gotten to the point where you are ready to now focus on your formatting. So we're not thinking about using track changes. We're not thinking about editing your text. So we want to consider that that component of your manuscript is done. And again, we're just ready to make these final formatting changes so that you can submit the document. The very first thing I recommend is that under the Microsoft Word Home tab, you click on this little symbol. It's called the Show Hide symbol. And when you turn that on, as you can see, we now see where in the document there is formatting. So the reason you want this on is because it's really important that you are, as I mentioned earlier, that your pagination is correct, your page breaks are placed correctly, and so forth. And when you have this show hide on, that's going to show you everywhere in your document where you have all of that formatting. So we want to keep that on for right now. What this is missing is page numbers in the upper right. So in the previous iteration, the APA manual, you wanted a page header that was different from the rest of your text because there wasn't a page number. However, per the 7th edition, that is no longer the case. So we do want page numbers up at the top of the page. So there are a few things that might be happening here. If you don't see a page number at the top of the page on your title page, but you do have page numbers later on in the document, likely what that means is that there's either a section break somewhere in your document, or when you click into the header, so I just double clicked at the top of the page there, and you see under options, it says different first page. So you want to unselect that because you want all of your pages in this manuscript to be formatted the same way. So you don't need that first page to look any different than the other pages. So we want to unselect that. And if you notice now, that has put my page number in because in this example, there were already page numbers inserted. If you don't yet have page numbers inserted, and actually I'm going to get rid of this header because I'll show you how to put that in. So let's just say, for the sake of example, there are no page numbers. So there's currently, as you see, nothing in the header of the document. To create that, you're going to double click in the top here. And that should automatically open what's called the header footer menu option. So you want to make sure you're in this menu option for the header and the footer. And then on the left-hand side, it says header and footer. You click on page number. You want them to be at the top of the page. That's what our APA and Chicago School Standard are. And you want it to be in the upper right corner. So we're going to select that option. And you see now that has automatically inserted our page numbers in the upper right corner. That's critical for creating the table of contents so that the TOC knows, so Microsoft Word knows what page numbers to bring in. I'm going to put that's the student's running head back in here. Notice that I removed the words running head. Those are no longer required, so you don't need to have those actual words. Now to get the running head over to the left margin, you can just click your tab key. You might have to click it twice, but usually a single click of the tab key is all you need. So we've clicked the tab key. So now our header looks the way it needs to look, and more importantly, our page numbers are there. I know today's session isn't entirely focused on formatting of the title page, but I do want to point out that your title on your title page should be in bold font. So I went ahead and fixed that. This is something we see a fair amount where students, instead of using the page break function, are using their enter key. So every time you see this little like what's called the pilcrow or the paragraph symbol, that means that you've hit the enter key on your keyboard. And while that can be effective for creating white space in a document, moving text down the page, you don't want to use that when the goal is to start text at the top of a new page. Instead of that, you want to put your cursor right in front of the word that should begin on the next page. In this case, it's the acknowledgements. And then under your insert menu, you want to add a page break. So you see that now we see that that has added a page break here. Now we know, no matter what other edits we make on the title page, that this acknowledgements will always start on the next page. Also for the 7th edition, all these front matter pages. So the front matter is everything that appears before your chapter 1. All of the headings on these pages should be bold. We do not use any all caps in APA style. Okay, here again, we see the student has used that enter key. So I'm going to insert a page break. Remember, no all caps. We want this heading to be bold. However, notice that even though I'm bolding these headings in the front matter, I'm not actually assigning them a heading style because none of this is pulled into your table of contents. So you don't need your acknowledgements, your dedication, or your abstract to appear in your table of contents. So you don't need to worry about assigning those a heading style. We have this table of contents in here. I'm actually going to delete it because I'm going to show you how to insert a pre-formatted table of contents. So you don't have to go through and do that formatting on your own. This student has used an insert a table in order to create the list of figures. Again, that can work, but there is a better way. So I'm going to show you a better way. So I'm going to delete this table that the student had here. Delete some of this format. So same thing, this student has used a table to do that. Now I'm going to insert a page break. Okay, so now we have this blank page for table of contents. I recommend to all students just keep this page blank until you are actually ready to, again, finally turn in your manuscript, right? The table of contents really should be one of the last steps that you do. So don't worry too much about this until you have really crafted either a complete proposal or that completed manuscript, and that you know all of your headings have been labeled correctly. Okay, because if that's not the case and you try to create a table of contents, generally you're just going to sort of create more headache for yourself than is worth. So I recommend keep that blank until you're really ready to generate that table of contents. Now it might be that you need a list of figures and a list of tables. We're actually going to be talking about how to format these on a different day, but for today, I am going to put them in here. They do need to appear. We need page breaks here. And these will be pulled into your table of contents. So the very first 2 items in your table of contents, if you have tables and you have figures in your document, will be those lists. So here's where we want to label our first heading so that we know it's pulled into the table of contents. So I'm going to select that text. And then from my home menu, if you see here where it says styles, I'm going to actually pop open this window, and that has opened the styles menu for me. If you are using our APA 7th edition dissertation and thesis template, these styles should be pre-formatted for you. If you notice, there's a few here, but we might need to modify these. And I'm actually well, we'll keep those in there. That's okay. Okay, so we're gonna create a new style. So in our document, in the Chicago School dissertation thesis template specifically, you are going to be pulling in 3 heading styles into your table of contents. There's a level 0, a level 1, and a level 2. So let's create this level 0. Level 0, we'll call it APA level 0. Level 0 applies to all of the major chapter divisions. So we're going to consider that the list of figures, the list of tables, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5, your reference list, and then all of your appendices. So those will all be labeled with level 0. When you're creating a style, I recommend that it's based on no style because it's going to have its own unique formatting. So don't base it on anything else. All of the text that follows your headings, though, this is really important, is that you want to make sure that Microsoft Word is labeling those as normal text. So your regular body paragraph text. Okay, so we've called this APA level 0. It's a paragraph type. It's based on no style. The following paragraph should be normal. As with all APA headings, it's going to be bold. So I'm going to select the B. We want it centered on the page because level 0 and level 1 are centered on the page. Then I'm going to come down here to format and I'm going to click on paragraph. There's a few other things I want to make sure of. I want to make sure that in my spacing, it is supposed to be double spaced. That's correct. But you see how after it's adding a little bit of extra white space. I want to get rid of that. So you want to make sure the spacing, both before and after that line, is at 0 point, and that you're at standard double spacing. We'll click OK. We'll click OK. So now we've just created our APA level 0 heading. And now every time I come in here, I can just click on that, click APA 0, level 0, and it's going to do that for me automatically. So chapter 1, introduction. As I mentioned, there is no all caps headings in APA style. So there's a few ways to change this. If you hit the Shift key plus F3, so on your keyboard, if you hold down Shift and F3 together, that is going to get rid of the all caps. It's really a slick way to do that. You could also delete it and just retype it. But again, that Shift F3 will change text from all caps into all lowercase. We also want to make sure, as I mentioned, because this is the chapter 1 heading, that it's labeled as a level 0. So I'm going to apply my level 0. So all you have to do to apply that heading is just place your cursor anywhere in that heading and then come into your styles menu and click 0. Then I'm going to go through, I'm not worried too much again about the content of this. That's not the focus of today. We're just talking about headings and creating that table of contents. So I'm just going to scroll through here and find the next heading. I will say one thing though that is missing from this is that really what this, this chapter 1 should be beginning with what's called the background. So background, this is the first main heading of chapter 1. So this should be an APA level 1. You see that style is already in here, so I don't have to create it. So if I click level 1. Okay, so now let's say you do that. You've clicked level, you've clicked what you believe the appropriate style should be. But as you notice, my formatting changed. So what did it do here? It made that single spacing instead of double spacing. That's something we want to change, but don't panic because you can always modify, even after you've created a style, you can always modify it. So we can just come in here. I'm going to click on my APA level 1, and then I'm going to click modify. And I'm just going to go through, again, I want it to be no style. I want to make sure the text afterwards is normal. And then let's double check because remember it made my spacing single. So yeah, so it is not set to double space. So I'm going to get my before and after set to 0. And then I'm going to come to standard double spacing. I'm going to click OK, and look at that. It does it automatically. So now anywhere in your document that you have a level 1 heading, Microsoft Word will automatically update it based on what you've told it to do, what you've told that APA level 1 heading to look like. Okay, so now I have a level 0, I have a level 1. I'm going to click into this paragraph text. You just want to make sure, this is probably one of the biggest points of frustration that we see for students, is that when they generate their table of contents, they see that some of their paragraph text is being pulled into that table of contents. And when that happens, that means because this text, the paragraph text itself, has been mislabeled with the wrong style. So you always want to make sure your paragraph text itself, when you select it, is, oops, that normal style. Now, let's say you select normal and it does what just happened here. Okay, and that's because, again, we want to modify this style. So your normal style, it should be double spaced. So you can also click this icon right here, make sure it's double spaced. Okay, and that it's flush with the left margin, and then you click OK, and there it's fixed itself again. Okay, so we're just going to make sure everything is, all of this is normal. Let's see if there's any other headings we want to label in here too. Scroll down to, depending on how you've labeled your documents, your headings as well. So that's gonna be a level 1. You can also come up, to make scrolling through your document easier too, if you come up to the view page, and then you want to view the navigation page. The navigation pane. So what that's going to do is all the headings that you've put into your document, they should show up on your left-hand margin here, so that you can easily click from one section to the other, rather than having to scroll, which is what I'm doing now. But the reason they aren't appearing is because we haven't yet labeled them in this document. We want that to be a 1. Scope of the study, level 1. Okay. I'm just going to close that for now. So we see here, notice that the student has put in the enter key, or use the enter key rather than page break. So we want to insert a page break here because we want this text to fall at the top. I'm going to label that. So remember, I'm going to hit Shift F3 so that I get rid of my all caps there. I've labeled this a 0 also. So you can have, as I have here, I have my styles menu open as an extra window in Microsoft Word. You don't have to do that. You can always view it here from the home tab too. So you should be able to see your styles appear here. But if you do need this menu open, if you need to create or modify your styles. So as we mentioned, we have to have level 0, level 1, as well as level 2 headings in our table of contents. So we also need to label all of these level 2 headings. So we're going to do that. Again, we're going to add a new style. We're going to call it APA level 2. It's based on no style. We want the paragraph that follows to be normal. It is going to be bold. It's going to be flush left. We'll just make sure our spacing is correct. Click OK, click OK. All right, so now we have that as level 2. Double checking my paragraph text is correct. So now I'm going to need to go through and label all of my level 2 headings. Level 2 and so forth. So I know that this can be tedious. I do recommend that you label your headings as you go when you're writing your document, so you don't have to go through and do this, because as you can tell, it can be tedious. So another point here is that although you aren't going to be pulling any other headings into your table of contents, I do think it's helpful to create styles for all of the APA heading levels. So this, for example, is a level 3 heading. And even though we're not going to be pulling it in, it's just going to make your life easier if you have a label for it, because it just makes formatting that much easier. So I've called this level 3. Level 3, they're flush left, and it's also italicized. Excuse me. And I'm just going to get rid of, I noticed it looks like there's an indent, so I want to get rid of that. Click OK, click OK. All right, so now I have my level 3s as well. So again, that's not being pulled into the table of contents, but it's just a sort of a time saver for you. If you notice, so now I don't have to do much manual manipulation of these. And the reason I'm changing these too, if you notice, I mentioned at the beginning, this is a manuscript that was previously formatted for the APA 6th edition. And the level 3 headings looked a little different in that edition. So I'm also, in addition to helping with making revisions and edits easier, I'm correcting for the right version of APA here. So this is, there's unfortunately at the end of the day, there's really no getting around that some of this work is a bit busy work, right? It can be a little tedious, but that's why it's really important to, as much as possible, to do this as you go. But we all know during the revision process, headings can change a lot. Organization can really change as you get into revisions, particularly in this chapter 2, as you get feedback from your committee, which is another reason why I say just hold off on creating that table of contents, because it's hard to really say what this document might look like after you've gotten feedback from everybody on your committee, for example. So I'm hitting Shift F3 to get rid of my all caps. Okay, and this again, this one has to be a level 0. This one actually should be a level 1 heading, participants. Okay, tables. So tables I'm going to hold off. We have another day to talk about creating table headings and pulling your table into your list of tables. So I'm just going to hold off on that for now. Okay. So this should be a level 3. This one is a level 4 heading, and in AP 7th edition, our level 4 headings are actually not italicized. I'm not going to label these. And if this is a level 5 heading, then it would be italicized. So this student has really sort of boiled down to some pretty minute detail here using all of these heading levels, which is fine. It doesn't always happen. So you might find that you don't use all of these heading levels in your document. Doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. So don't worry about that. So again, we're going to come back to talking about tables and figures in another day. So I do recommend you come back for that session, you view that recording at a later date. So, all right, I'm going to go through, I've already sort of modeled how to revise for the correct heading level. So really what I want to do is just scroll through this text and make sure we have all of those headings that are going to go into our table of contents correctly labeled. Okay. Putting that page break in there. This has a fair number of tables. The tables, for the most part, I know I'm scrolling through very quickly, are formatted correctly. Okay, so for the sake of example, I'm going to say we've gone through the entire document now and labeled our headings correctly. So now that we've done that, we are ready to go in and generate that table of contents. So I'm going to close out my style menu here. I'm going to come back up to the top of the document. Okay. So now we're on the page where there's table of contents. So we're going to create a custom table of contents. To do that, you want to put your cursor right where the table of contents is going to go. And then on the references tab, so if you see at the top here, it says references. And then the first menu on your left is table of contents. So I want you to click that little drop down arrow. And then I want you to click on custom table of contents. You want to make sure that under general, you want to pull it in from a template, and you want it to show 3 levels of heading. Okay. Then under the then we're going to click our options menu. And remember, we want 3 APA headings to come in. We want level 0, that's going to be number 1. Level 1 is going to be number 2, and level 2 is going to be number 3. So once you put that in, then I do want you to sort of scroll down and get rid of any other numbers that might be in here. So the only numbers that you should have should be level 0 as 1, level 1 as 2, and level 2 as 3. Then you're going to click OK. You also want to make sure that up here, if you see in the print preview, you want to make sure level 0 is all the way. See how that is all the way flush? That level 1 is indented just a little bit, and then level 2 is indented just a little bit more. So just verify that that's the case. It should automatically do that. And then you will click OK. And so now what this has done, notice this has automatically generated my table of contents. I've got that list of figures, list of tables, chapter 1. So all of that has come in really beautifully into my table of contents. And I don't really need to do anything else. That's it. Now, if you make modifications, so let's say you've generated this table of contents, and then you do end up perhaps adding a section or deleting a section or modifying such that you think your page numbers might have changed, that's fine. You don't have to delete the table of contents and start over. If you right click, so I just put my cursor there and I right clicked on my mouse, and you see where it says update field. You can either update, so if you just need to update your page numbers, you can do that. Or if you've added or deleted headings, you can do that. So if it's just the page numbers, you can click update page numbers only, or you can click update entire table. And that'll just simply regenerate it again based on the updates that you have made. Okay, so I am going to now pause and just see, are there any questions? Anything that I have not covered that you would like to ask questions? So as you know, these knowledge is power hours are very brief, 30 minutes presentation. We've gone through that, and the rest of the time now is for questions. And Phyllis, I see that you are on. Do you have any questions?
Hi, Dr. Marshall. I'm actually going to go back over this recording to get back into the headings and everything to make sure I've got everything correct in there. So I'll look at it again. Thank you, though.
Yeah, so I do recommend to you and anyone who's going to listen to this recording that, you know, that you sort of have the recording up as you're going through it yourself, right? So you can sort of spot checks, you know, sort of think of it as a how-to or a lab, right? So as you're going through, have the recording up. If you do have questions, though, feel free to reach out to me directly, or I'm just going to bring up our final slide here. So you can reach out to me directly, or you can reach out to the Online Campus Writing Center. So we're just Online Writing Center at the chicagoschool.edu. You can locate the Online Writing Center from your Chicago School community site page. If you click on Writing Resources, and then on the Online Writing Center, it's right on the page there. You see it, you really can't miss it. So you can email us, or if you are really having trouble troubleshooting your formatting, or you've followed all of these steps and the table of contents still just doesn't look right, we will look at that document for you. We will help you do that. So you can always make an appointment for us to look at that manuscript for you.
Okay. Right. I did have one quick question. If I wanted I intend to attend many more of these sessions. Yeah. Is there a way, I don't know if there's a calendar link to include them on the calendar, or do I need to go in and manually add each one for the future meetings that you'll be having?
So if you registered for the series, the Knowledge is Power Microsoft series, all 3 of those you should be able to add to your calendar from that registration confirmation. The other webinars, we do have a calendar embedded on our site. And actually, let me just, I'll bring that up for you just a moment. I can show it to you. Give me just a moment here. Okay, so we're looking at the community site. So if you come to writing resources, click on online, and then click on Writing Center events. So we do have a calendar. Here's a Google Calendar. So you should be able to click, you should be able to add these. If you have your own Google Calendar, you should be able to add these events to your own calendar as well.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, my pleasure. Well, thank you for attending. And again, reach out if you have any questions.
Will do. Take care.
All right. Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.